Hey y'all, it's Michael and today I'm here to film a video that I have been wanting to film for quite a while. Camera recommendations for booktubers. So to keep this video quick and to the point, let's get started. So the way I'm going to answer these, what kind of camera should I get? I'm going to do the who, what, where, why, and how. I am a true believer of the best camera that you have is in your hands. So whichever camera that you have at the nearest of you, that's the one to use. And I find myself realizing that all the time. Even if I don't have my DSLR or my point and shoot, I always have my phone or something else to take photos with. And this video is more for physical cameras themselves, not for like settings and tweaks that you could do to improve the quality of your video. The hierarchy of what you should put towards making a video should be content, 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 audio, then the actual camera. So we're gonna start with the camera today. Why do I want to make this video? If you've been watching this channel for quite a while, I love cameras. I love photography. Before, my main job that I used to have was actually sell cameras. And still some people still come to me at my job that I work at. They still come to me every once in a while to ask like camera questions. Me and my coworker who also loves photography. This is more from like personal experience that I encountered in like interacting with people buying like cameras for the first time or like replacing cameras at the entry level. So that's who this is for. Who is this video for? This video, I have one person in mind. The video for the booktuber or bookstagrammer. So this is someone who will film a booktube video, take pictures and put it on Bookstagram, or take pictures and put it on their blog. The reason why I say this is because I am going in with these recommendations with a caveat that there are things that I won't talk about. I also wanted this video to be more for like the entry beginner. Like when I say beginner, I mean this is a booktuber, this is a bookstagrammer, a book blogger who, okay, if I just say booktuber, it basically means all of those three people. They're literally just gonna put it on auto, buying your first DSLR or like to upgrade from like the recent camera that you have. I am also gonna talk about some pros and cons of each of the cameras that I recommend. There's some things that I'm not really gonna hone and focus on, like zoom, like you're not gonna be zooming in like really close, that type of things. These cameras won't have the farthest of zooms because books aren't flying like far away and you're gonna have to take a photo of them. So that's like not a concern for me. Also, not a concern for these recommendations is 4K. And to be honest, I don't know of one booktuber that shoots in 4K. And I watch a lot of booktubers. I don't know what booktuber would shoot in 4K. Like, do we really need to see those well, you know what, let me just, those details of those books. If you bought a Folio Society book, then yes, I would love to see that in 4K. Frames per second, that's not gonna be important because like books aren't moving. Also things like rolling shutter, you guys probably don't, a beginner won't even notice that at all, but I will. But like for them that won't matter. Like chromatic aberrations, like they don't care about that. So this is, like I said, really for the beginner booktuber. Where should you buy cameras and when should you buy cameras? So in my opinion, the best time to buy cameras in general, obviously like around the holidays, because they'll have a lot of deals and whatnot. But if you pay really close attention, the best time in my opinion is actually after the holidays, because this is what will happen. So this is also going to coincide with where. Please, for the love of God, buy cameras where they are certified to be sold. This is so important. You can look up on Canon, Nikon, Sony, actually all of the camera manufacturers, authorized dealers that can sell their products. When you buy used camera, I actually think used cameras are great. There are a couple of things to be aware when you're buying used cameras. Obviously check the conditions, like be careful on Craigslist. I would never buy a camera on Craigslist. And the reason why I say buy like from an authorized source, especially when you're doing used cameras, especially DSLR. Now you don't have to worry as much about that like with point and shoots. If you are going to buy a pre-owned used DSLR, ask the person, or you can do it yourself, you just have to Google it, what is their shutter count? I always call it a shutter count, but the proper name is shutter count actuations. Actuations? I think I'm pronouncing that right. I always known it as shutter count. Basically, think about it as like gas mileage for your car. So you know, as you look at the gas mileage for a car, for a used car, you're going to expect that it's gonna get worn down quicker. Similar with a DSLR. Please, for the love of God, look at the shutter counts when you're buying a used DSLR and compare it to what the manufacturer says the maximum shutter count. Please, if you're gonna buy a used DSLR, be aware of that. Also be aware of the battery. Ask them where that battery been, okay? Like, some people would just leave it in like a cold, or like even like in the attic where it gets hot. Let me tell you, camera batteries are expensive, okay? They are expensive. How should I buy cameras? Please do research. You don't want to go out the house. You know, it's actually nice to talk to a person face to face, you know, at an electronics store. And, you know, be kind, please. Be kind to them and ask them, like, give me recommendations, but be upfront with them and let them know that I'm not actually here to purchase. I'm just looking around, shopping, doing some research, and get feedback from them. A great salesman will be able to help you find the correct camera and lead you in the right direction. Also, don't get caught up with megapixels. This is a quick short story. I know this video is going to be long. I can feel it. One time a customer almost fight with me because I tried to tell him that don't really count on megapixels, because like a lot of people, like the general basic photographer, will not blow up to like billboards, okay? Let's keep it 100. Just don't worry about megapixels that much, okay? Like, you're not really going to be zooming in really like. Okay, so don't get so caught up with megapixels, because I see people do this all the time, like, oh, this one's 20 megapixels, this one's 12 megapixels, but then you start wondering, like, why is this one camera so much expensive but it has less megapixels? So just don't worry about megapixels. Like, it's not the most important thing. Finding the perfect camera does take some time, and I do say perfect with like perfect. You'll never find a camera that does everything, unfortunately. Trust me. We've been wanting a camera forever that does everything we want it to be, but there is always some sort of caveat that comes with it. These cameras that I'm about to recommend to y'all, I'm going to call them by their US name, because Canon particularly, changes the name of their especially their DSLR changes the name of their model numbers overseas. So I'm just letting you know now. So if you can't seem to find it, like you're overseas and you're looking for these cameras and you can't seem to find it, that's because they have a different name. Talk about the first camera type, and that's your phone. Here's the thing, like, nowadays phones are just as expensive as DSLRs, or like the high-end point and shoot, and they do a lot. So I always recommend, like, if you're starting off a booktube channel, just use your phone. Like, use your phone, like and oh, I was about to be super shady and say some people buy DSLRs for their booktube videos but they don't even know how to use it, but I didn't say that. So I'm just saying, just use your phone. Like, if anything you get from this video, just like, if you want to start a booktube channel, well, if you have your phone, I say just use your phone. Nowadays, the videos and the camera quality to take pictures on the phones are really, really great. Especially that Pixel 2. Oh my god. Beautiful photos. And dare I say it, it's a little bit better. Pro of phones is that a lot of us already have a phone, so I say just use that. Just find you some good lighting, find you a quiet space, talk a little bit louder than usual so that way the camera doesn't produce a lot of noise, and just film. One of the major cons of it is that it takes up a lot of space, especially if you have a small size iPhone. Oh my god, it is going to be the struggle. This is just like a personal thing, is transferring videos from your iPhone to a PC. Oh my god, it is the biggest hassle in the world. You think you could just copy and paste? No. Another pros of it is that you can use your apps that are already as like apps just to edit, even upload it to YouTube already. So like this thing right here is like a booktube video making machine in the palm of your hand. So I say use. Another pro of it is that you always have it. Like, it's so easy to carry around. So if you start doing like follow me around vlogs, it's just so easy to just be like, oh hey, like it's so easy. Pro of it too is it's flexible. You can add a lavalier mic, just connect this to this. You can put a lavalier mic right here, and the sound will be great. And you could buy inexpensive, good lavalier mics now. Like, it's crazy. You guys, I'm telling you, if anything, this right here, this. Next, let's talk about another type of camera to take video on is camcorders. And with this, I'm just gonna be meh. To be honest, I wouldn't recommend a camcorder for a booktuber or a bookstagrammer at all. First off, like, aesthetically, this is gonna sound so shallow. Aesthetically, like, it doesn't look cool. Like, it just doesn't look cool, and I don't know, something about it. A lot of them will take great videos. A lot of them take pictures, like, they're not good. Point blank, simple, period. The pictures aren't that great, so. Another pro of it is that, like, you can do continuous long videos. Cameras, they stop at 29 minutes and 59 seconds. But the great thing about a camcorder is that it can go longer for that. The only time I ever recommend like a camcorder is like, let's say you're going to a graduation, or you're going to like a seminar and you want to record the whole thing, or someone's having a baby and you want to videotape the whole thing. Like, another camera type I'm not going to recommend also, because I don't think it has the mind for a booktuber, is like an action camera, like a GoPro. I would not recommend it for a booktuber at all, or a bookstagrammer or a book blogger. We're gonna skip that, so yeah. So next, let's talk about point and shoot. A point and shoot is basically, that's it, like a point and shoot. It's a camera intended with the purpose in mind to literally point and shoot. Like, it's made for like on the go, like choo, yeah. They're really easy for entry-level photographers, and because they're made for on the go. So like, are small, you can put it in your pocket and like just literally point and shoot on auto. You just and take the photo. Now, the thing I am not going to recommend, and I do have to point this out, and it's just a personal preference for me anyways. I kind of detest, and I don't usually recommend bridge cameras. Bridge cameras are in the point and shoot line of cameras. Basically, a bridge camera is like a camera that kind of looks like a DSLR, but you can't detach the lens. Since they're so bulky, you can't just like put them in your pocket and just like go. I understand why people buy it, because like it has long zooms and the sensor tends to be a little bit better than the lower end point and shoots. But I've always looked at it like, bridge cameras, price-wise also, like a lot of them are so close, like they're so close to the price of a DSLR, like the entry-level DSLRs. So why don't you just wash a little bit more dishes, mow a little bit more lawns, turn a little bit more tricks, buy the DSLR instead of the bridge cameras. So in my opinion, I personally do not like bridge cameras, but I did put one on here. If anything, you can get the Canon PowerShot SX350. I played around with it. It looks okay. So also thinking of this, like for a booktuber, nowadays vlogging, like walking around everywhere, is getting more popular. Alright, before I got rudely interrupted, one of the main pros is obviously portability. It's so easy just to take it anywhere with you. So like if you're in a bookstore, you can take a picture, or just wherever you can. It's just so easy to just take a photo in general. And nowadays they have like levels to point and shoots, because now they have even like the high-end point and shoots, which are beautiful. They take beautiful photos. So what's the con of a point and shoot? One of the cons is flexibility, because you can't remove the lens. You can't change the lens like to get like pretty bokeh backgrounds like this, or a lot of them you can't add a external mic, so the sound quality isn't that great. For a lot of people, like, that's just fine, and for them at the end of the day, it's just, if it records great video, we could hear you, then it's fine for them. So let's talk about some of the cameras that I would recommend. One I would recommend is the Sony Cybershot DSCH X80. This would be like on the little brother of camera that I personally have, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. What's great about this, it has a flip up screen, which is great for vlogging. The zoom is not that bad. And also what I like, this is so cool, is that it has a retractable viewfinder, so the viewfinder pops up. And I think that's so cool because especially when it gets really bright and sunny, it's hard to see the actual screen, and so the viewfinder like just really helps. The video quality is not that bad. This is at $370, so it's not like, for the price, I think that's pretty good. Like, it takes pretty good video and pictures. Talk about the high-end point and shoots. So the high-end point and shoots basically is exactly what it says, the high-end point and shoots. A lot of these will have incredible footage and incredible picture qualities. The main two that are up there, in my opinion, is the Sony RX100 Mark V, and which I personally have, and then the Canon G7X Mark II. I say Mark 1, Mark II, Mark V, it basically means different iterations. Kind of think about it like the iPhone 6, iPhone 6s, iPhone 7, iPhone 8, 7s. Like, it's just like, as the years go by, they keep improving on it. So that's what Mark means. If you had to choose between these two, that's great. Like, if you're looking around for a portable point and shoot vlogging bookstagram booktuber camera, I would recommend one of those. There are pros and cons of each one of them. The Sony RX100 Mark V, this one right here, you could still surprisingly purchase, like I saw on like Amazon, that you could still purchase the older versions of these, even the first G7X, and I think those cameras are great. And if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I had the Mark I of this for the longest, and it takes incredible video. The higher up the marks, you get more features and just like better, like, well, this one has like a really good better sensor. This does have a viewfinder, which is great, so you can pop this up and it has like a great viewfinder, so you can use it. The one difference, in my opinion, that I've seen from a lot of tests and a lot of statements, this camera focuses a little bit faster. Like on autofocus, it tends to focus much faster, and that's probably because Sony's autofocus is great. Like, if you look at their high-end cameras, they now even develop on their super expensive like full-frame cameras. Like, now they can even autofocus like face detection when your eyes are closed. Like, if your eyes are closed, they can do face detection, which blows my mind. Like, eyes closed, and then like even things blocking the eye, it knows it, which is great. But this uses a type of autofocus system, without getting too complicated with it, that's a little bit different from like what the previous models of this use and what Canon uses. And so the autofocus is fantastic. Both cameras are great, okay? The G7X Mark II is roughly around, I saw it for like $700, like the MSRP for it. This, on the other hand, is $1,000. So I know it's a bit pricey, but like I mentioned, you can get this at the older versions of it, and it's roughly around that $700 mark. You can even now find the RX100 Mark I at around, I saw it going around like $400, $500 online. So there's a range, and as you get into the into more of the different versions of this RX100, then you get different features. Like, one of the features on this and the Canon G7X Mark II that like the older RX100s don't have is like Wi-Fi and NFC, which is great. So when you take a photo on here, you can transfer it right away to your phone instead of having to go through all that rigmarole of uploading it to your computer, then uploading it to like Dropbox, and then getting from Dropbox to this, like, or like to your PC, to your Mac, and then airdropping it. Like, it's a lot. So that there are great features like that. But whichever one you do get, I think they're both great. Alright, so I'm back. I actually had to switch places because everybody's here for the game, and so it's gonna get loud. Yeah, my dad's going for Georgia, so there's that. So I forgot to mention this as for the point and shoots. One of the cons for it is that the batteries tend to be much smaller. Another line of cameras are mirrorless cameras. In case you don't know, DSLR means digital single lens reflector. There's a mirror inside of the DSLR body, and it's like flipping. That's why when you click a DSLR button, you hear it, like you hear that click. And so the main difference is basically a mirrorless camera has no mirror inside of it. The mirrorless cameras, I'm only going to recommend one brand. And that's because they're killing it in the mirrorless camera game, and that's the Sony Alpha series. One of the cons for mirrorless cameras is compared to like the DSLRs brand like Nikon and Canon, there's not a lot of lenses compared to those, and also it does tend to get overheated. Also, I do have to mention that too, with the Sony RX100 Mark V, the camera that I have, it does tend to overheat if you've been using the camera for quite a while. And unfortunately, but compared to like a DSLR, since you don't have that mirror inside a mirrorless camera, the great thing about a mirrorless camera, it's a little bit more portable, where the body is thinner. Some of the lenses are so thin now, like it's really easy to carry it around with you. So that is one of the great things of like a mirrorless versus a DSLR. The Sony line of mirrorless cameras, they take incredible footage and video. I would if you wanted to get a mirrorless, I would recommend those. Alright, so let's talk about the big boys. These are the cameras, like the DSLRs, that a lot of people want to upgrade to. I always look at DSLRs as having like 3 branches. So you have your entry-level DSLRs, your what they call enthusiast, prosumer, I guess you could say, DSLRs, and then you have your pro DSLRs. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about the pro ones because... So the entry-level DSLRs are essentially, that's what they are, entry level. These are DSLRs made for beginners, made for people that want to get into photography, want to get better video quality and better picture quality. One of the pros is better picture and better video. Like, you're just gonna see it right away. Like, you're definitely going to see it right away. The flexibility of a DSLR is also great. You'll be able to change the lenses. I have an entry-level camera and I've changed it to a lens so I can get this pretty bokeh background right here. Is that it's a really great tool if you want to learn about like photography and the videography. And nowadays they even have beginner modes. The cons of it for a booktuber, in my opinion, would be the bulkiness of it. These cameras tend to get big and heavy, and while they don't seem heavy at first, essentially they will start to lug down on you. I mean, carrying a camera for, even if it's not that heavy at first, eventually like putting it in your backpack too is just kind of like cumbersome because it's bulky and wide. So that is probably the main concern and main thing that I see on Booktube and Bookstagram. So with the flexibility too, you'll be able to add in a mic, which is great. So with the mirrorless cameras too. Compared to like a point and shoot, that is one of the really great things about DSLRs, because a lot of them will have a mic jack. Unfortunately, some of them won't have a headphone jack, but that's a whole different thing. Since I'm talking about the entry-level cameras, DSLRs, a lot of the entry-level DSLRs will come with the entry-level lens, the 1855 f3.5 I forgot the f stop for it, 3.5 5.6 lens, everyday lens, and this is what you start off with. I mean, and trust me, it'll do what you're wanting it to do. I get asked this a lot when I used to sell cameras, and I still get asked to it to this day. Which brand should I get? Should it be Canon? Should it be Nikon? Should it be Sony? And I always tell people it doesn't really matter in my opinion. It's because, and I say this because a lot of them are so comparable, like these brands are so comparable and they tend to do the same things. It's when you start nitpicking that you can kind of see the differences. The one that you're going to stick with is what essentially is the system you're going to be buying for. Like, I'm starting off with Canon, like I have a Canon DSLRs, and so you kind of have to buy like Canon lenses, but then like even buy third party, like a Tamron lens, like a third party like Tamron lens, but then you have to make sure it has like a Canon mount for it. So it's just one of those things. One of the things I do have to mention for video wise anyway, on the entry level side of the DSLRs is Canon's STM lenses. So Canon has this thing called STM, which is short for their stepping motor. And then they have special lenses that have the stamp of an STM. Basically what it means is that when an STM lens focuses and it switches the focus, you don't hear this grinding noise. So have you ever watched a booktube video? I see this a lot in a lot of not even booktube videos, but in a lot of YouTube videos, where you can hear the grinding of the lens. So you hear it like that. I don't know if Nikon has it, but I have seen videos from Nikon cameras, and it's fine. And here's the thing, a booktuber 90% of the time isn't moving around, jumping around so much that, well, some of us do, like I just did that manner so much where the camera's just like, you can hear it focusing. So it's fine. It's fine. For the entry levels, there's four Canon cameras, and then I'm going to tell you the equivalents of them for the Nikon side. Here's the thing though. I'm glad I waited to film this video because, like a few months ago actually, and then Canon announced the SL2. So this would be the DSLR if you're like an entry-level DSLR. I would recommend. So Canon released this camera a while back. I forgot how while ago. They used to have this camera with just the SL1. The Canon SL1, they geared it towards, I guess you would say, the soccer mom, because a lot of their advertisements for it was like the mom on the go, because it was basically like a DSLR, but like really, it's one of the smallest DSLRs you've ever seen. It's incredibly small, but it can fit the lenses and everything like a normal DSLR would. And so they advertised it for that purpose, which was weird. This year they announced the SL2, the Canon SL2, and I think if you're an entry-level booktuber and you want to get an entry-level DSLR, I think this is the best bang for your buck. Because first off, it has an articulating screen, so the screen, you know how this screen flips upward like that? The SL2 flips on the side. You can see myself on the viewfinder, which is great, so you can frame your shot. It has a mic jack, so you can put in an external mic, which is great. The only downside is that it doesn't apparently have headphone jacks, but then you can switch the lenses. I think it produces great video, it takes great photos from what I've seen, so if you can find that, I would recommend that. The other ones are like the Canon T6, which is equivalent to the Nikon D3400. That one's around $450, $550. It doesn't have an articulating screen, which a lot of people really look for, but also I'm gonna look it up, but I don't think it has STM with it, so that defeats the purpose for that video. But I think it's still a great, I still think those cameras are great. Now the one above that, and they're kind of equivalent-esque almost, is the T6i, but that's equivalent to the Nikon D5500. That runs around the $800, $900 mark. I myself have a T5i, so the one that you're looking at now, these cameras are great. It has a articulating screen like this. It takes fantastic video and pictures. So other one, it's kind of like, it's almost like on the enthusiast line, but it's still considered an entry level, and that's the T7i. That's roughly around 900-ish. This one has like guide settings for like beginners and whatnot, but the main thing about it is that the autofocusing on it apparently is much better than, like, let's say the T6i. The enthusiast line, I'm only recommend one because I'm thinking that a lot of beginner booktubers, and they're not gonna go up this high, and that's the 80D. This starts with the lens, because you can buy it without the lens, but you're going to buy it with the lens because you won't have any lenses. And with the lens, it comes with an 18-135mm, so you can zoom in really far, and that starts at around 1800. I'm hesitant to recommend this to like a beginner booktuber or like want to spend that much money on like a camera, but I would recommend this for a booktuber that knows, like, really enjoys it, like this, like really enjoys making booktube videos and creating booktube videos. I would also recommend it to the person that really, like, I generally say this, really want to up their knowledge and their creativity of photography and videography. And I say this because with that camera, you should be shooting in manual. Let's be honest. You should be shooting in manual, so it's great to like learn about photography. It can last for a really long time, and once soon enough you'll be able to go on to the pro line. This video was all over the place, and that's just because there's things happening so much. So those are the recommendations. I know there are a million cameras, and I can't go through all of them. But those are the ones that I've always had my eye on, and those are the ones like I always tend to gravitate towards. Just like starting off researching, those are the ones that I always tell people to like start off as. So like from experiences that I had from selling cameras. So yes, if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below, or you can slide into my DMs on Twitter or Instagram. Just let me know. I would be glad to answer your questions. I'm gonna make a part 2 of this. I'm just realizing this as I'm filming this. I want to make a part 2 of this to like also like what happens when you after you buy these cameras, like different settings and different things to look out for, like about exposure, like making sure you don't get blown out because your exposure is so high, or like white balance. I find that a lot of people worry about this, like everything just looks freaking yellow. So yeah, look out for that. Until then, I'll see you guys till tomorrow. Bye.